Number 1.
Hutchings was last seen between 11:45 p.m. and midnight on July 30, 2006, when a friend dropped her off in the vicinity of the 900 block of Bleecker Street in Utica, New York. She had just been to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. She has never been heard from again. She left behind her purse, cellular phone, vehicle and medication. In January 2007, the body of Jennifer Bennett, a 29-year-old Utica woman, was found in a field in Deerfield, New York. Her death is considered suspicious. Bennett and Hutchings were associated with the same people and investigators are attempting to link the two cases. So far there is no hard evidence to connect Bennett's presumed homicide to Hutchings' disappearance, however. There were numerous unconfirmed sightings of Hutchings in New Jersey in 2007. Her mother stated Hutchings had visited New Jersey only once, several years before her disappearance, and had no reason to return there, and she did not believe Hutchings was in fact living in that state. Her mother also said it was uncharacteristic of Hutchings to leave without warning. Authorities initially thought she might have left of her own accord, but they now believe Hutchings met with foul play and is probably deceased. Her case remains unsolved.
Number 2.
Ignjatovic was last heard from on the morning of April 15, 1999, when she called a relative from her apartment on Kelsey Street in the New York City borough of Brooklyn and said she was going to the borough of Manhattan to visit her sister. She never arrived and has never been heard from again. No signs of a struggle or forced entry were found at her apartment, and there was no note. Ignjatovic had been having problems with her landlord, Marian Okoniewski, at the time of her disappearance. In 1997, an electrical fire badly damaged her apartment building and forced the tenants to move elsewhere. Ignjatovic sought help from a tenant advocacy organization, the St. Nicholas Neighborhood Preservation Organization, saying Okoniewski was not making repairs fast enough. A tenant advocate accompanied her to housing court to ensure that Ignjatovic would be able to move back into her rent-controlled apartment once it was repaired. Both Ignjatovic and the tenant advocate claim Okoniewski threatened them. The advocate says Okoniewski said he would burn her house down. On the morning of March 13, 1998, someone did set fire to some benzene-soaked rags at the entrance to the advocate's building. The arson remains unsolved. The following month, the housing court ordered Okoniewski to provide Ignjatovic with accommodation in a building he owned near the one that was burned and to repair Ignjatovic's old apartment in time to let her move back in by April 3, 1999. After Ignjatovic moved into the temporary apartment, it was burglarized and ransacked 3 times. On January 31 and March 10, the burglars slashed Ignjatovic's clothes and furniture and stole court documents relating to the housing case. The burglaries remain unsolved. When Ignjatovic was supposed to move back into her old apartment, Okoniewski said he would only allow her to do so if she agreed to a 40% rent increase. In response, Ignjatovic's attorney asked the housing court to cite Okoniewski for contempt. A hearing on the matter was scheduled for April 20, but Ignjatovic disappeared on April 15. Okoniewski denies having threatened or bothered Ignjatovic and stated she paid her rent on time and he had no personal issues with her. It is unclear whether the housing dispute had anything to do with Ignjatovic's disappearance. She is considered to be missing under unclear circumstances.
Number 3.
Emily was last seen in Flushing in the New York City borough of Queens on September 5, 2004. On September 10, her father went to the apartment Emily shared with her mother, Nadia Juan. Emily's father, Kerry Sarton, planned to pick up the child for his weekly visitation period, but Emily and Nadia weren't there. The New York Family Court issued a summons requiring Nadia to appear at court with Emily on September 14. When Nadia and Emily missed the court appearance, custody of Emily was given to her father. A warrant for international parental kidnapping was issued for Nadia's arrest on February 17, 2005. It was discovered that Nadia took Emily to Taiwan on September 6. She then attempted to leave Taiwan with the child but was prevented from doing so by Taiwanese authorities. Nadia has been fighting for custody of Emily in Taiwanese courts. Sarton was permitted to visit his daughter after her abduction. He stated she told him she remembered him and missed him. He has been forbidden to remove her from Taiwan, however, until the custody issue is decided there. 2 photographs of Nadia are posted with this case summary. She's described as Asian, 5'4" and 100 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Nadia's date of birth is April 1, 1967, making her 37 years old at the time of Emily's abduction. She may use the name Mei Fen Juan or Julia Juan. She has a scar on her left calf and a brown, oval-shaped birthmark on her lower back. She may have suicidal tendencies. Emily's case remains unsolved. New York City police are investigating.
Number 4.
Gail was last seen at the apartment she shared with her husband, Dr. Robert Bob Bierenbaum, in the New York City borough of Manhattan at 11 o'clock m. July 7, 1985. A photo of Robert is posted with this case summary. Robert claimed he and Gail argued that morning and Gail walked out of the residence on East 85th Street to go sunbathe in Central Park. Robert later said he waited in the apartment until 5:30 p.m., then went to a family birthday party in New Jersey. He didn't appear concerned at the party, but while at a friend's house that evening, he acted upset and called his apartment a few times. At midnight, Robert called one of Gail's friends to ask if she knew his wife's whereabouts. The next day, he called her psychotherapist. Gail missed her regularly scheduled appointment that day, and other people to ask if they had seen her. When Robert are missing to the authorities on the evening of July 8, he stated their marriage was deeply troubled and both of them were in therapy. Gail has never been heard from again. The last time anyone besides her husband saw her was on July 6. That day she saw her gynecologist and her hairdresser and spent some time with a friend in the afternoon hours. Early on in the investigation, police asked for permission to search the couple's apartment. Robert said he'd get back to them about that, but he never did. In September, he finally gave permission for investigators to come to the apartment, but only to search for fingerprints and anything else that might identify Gail. When a police officer conducted the search on September 30, he looked around for evidence of a crime, but didn't see anything of interest. Gail's family denied Robert's statements about Gail's alleged mental illness and substance abuse to investigators and said that Gail told them he had been mentally and physically abusing her for some time prior to her disappearance. Her family said that Robert once choked Gail into unconsciousness after catching her smoking cigarettes, which Robert stated was forbidden in their household. He also tried to kill her cat, according to Gail's relatives. Robert's attorney denied the Katz family's statements during the initial 1985 investigation. Investigators determined that Robert, a licensed pilot, took a 2-hour flight in a rented 4-passenger Cessna 172 Skyhawk from Essex County, New Jersey over the Atlantic Ocean the day Gail vanished. Robert failed to mention this fact to authorities during their initial questioning of him, although at their request he had provided a timeline of his and Gail's activities in the days immediately prior to her disappearance. A 1986 search of the plane and 2 vehicles Robert drove at the time of Gail's disappearance yielded nothing of interest. Gail and Robert had been married since 1982 and had had a stormy relationship for some time. She had left him for a time in the fall of 1983, but the couple reconciled. Gail had an affair with an investment banker during the summer of 1984 and the spring of 1985, and by the time of her disappearance she'd become romantically involved with a coworker. Gail was working on a doctorate in clinical psychology from Long Island University at the time she vanished, while Robert was on staff as a physician at Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn. She told friends that she was planning to divorce Robert. She had taken out a $10,000 loan so she could pay for graduate school without his help, and for months prior to her disappearance she had been looking for another place to live. Investigators believed that Robert was involved in Gail's disappearance for many years and was responsible for her presumed death, but lacked evidence to make an arrest in the case. Robert moved to Las Vegas, Nevada in 1989 and set up a medical practice in the city. This was the same year that a partial female body washed ashore in Staten Island, New York. DNA tests were not available at the time, but authorities believed that the remains were Gail's after conducting X-ray exams on the corpse. The body was buried, and it was assumed that Gail had been located, but the case remained unsolved. Robert married another doctor and the couple had a child together in the 1990s. Robert and his family moved to North Dakota, where both he and his wife practiced medicine. DNA testing became available in 1997, and the body believed to be Gail's was re-examined at her family's request. Forensic results proved that the body was not Gail's, and her case was officially reopened by New York authorities. Robert was arrested with second-degree murder in Gail's case in 2000 in North Dakota after ample evidence was compiled to prove a case against him. He was then extradited to New York to face trial. The majority of Robert's associates and friends were shocked by his arrest, saying that they had no indication he was capable of such violence. A former nanny who was employed by Robert and his second wife did tell investigators that Robert was very opposed to cigarette smoking. She claimed that he required her to wash her clothing if she was exposed to any smokers and seemed to be quite vehement about his beliefs. The nanny's claims appear to support the Katz family's statements about Robert and his reactions about smoking. Authorities believe that Robert strangled Gail in their Manhattan apartment on July 7, 1985, and then dismembered her body, placed her in a duffel bag, and tossed it into the ocean during his plane flight. At his 2000 trial, 11 witnesses testified that Gail had told them Robert abused her and she was afraid of his temper. 2 of Gail's friends testified that Gail said Robert's psychiatrist had written her a letter warning her that Robert was dangerous and advising her to leave him. Gail said she planned to use the letter as leverage in divorce court. Another friend said Gail frequently came to her for advice about her marital problems and had confided that Robert had threatened to kill her if she ever left him. Many of Robert's acquaintances, including a woman he began seeing only 3 weeks after Gail went missing, testified about the numerous different stories he'd told them about Gail's disappearance. Robert reportedly stated Gail was a drug addict and an alcoholic and was depressed and suicidal at the time of her disappearance. Her friends and therapist denied these statements, although one of Gail's boyfriends admitted they had used cocaine together several times. Robert denied all the allegations against him, although his defense attorney did concede that Gail was probably dead. He was convicted of Gail's murder in October 2000 and sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. Gail has never been located, but she is presumed deceased due to the circumstances involved in her case.
Number 5.
Kelsey was last seen at the Western Lights Plaza in the 100 block of Velasco Road between Grand Avenue and Onondaga Boulevard in Syracuse, New York on August 22, 1984. She was shopping with her family. Her former boyfriend, Ronald L. Tillinghast, approached her while she was in the jewelry section at Kmart and asked her to marry him, but Kelsey refused. Afterwards, she and her Tillinghast left together on his bicycle. He later said he dropped her off at 5:30 p.m. at Fayette and North Jettis Streets. She has never been heard from again. Her loved ones filed a missing persons report the next day. Authorities initially believed Kelsey may have left of her own accord, but as time passed without her contacting anyone, they began to suspect foul play. She does not have a prior history of leaving without warning. Tillinghast, whom she had dated for 8 years, cooperated with the investigation at first, but dropped out of sight after a few days. A month later, after he was arrested for probation violation, he said he had been camping along Onondaga Lake. Investigators searched the campsite but turned up no evidence in Kelsey's disappearance. A photo of Tillinghast is posted with this case summary. He still lives in Syracuse and is a registered sex offender. He was convicted of attempted rape in 1999. He also has an arrest record for theft which predates Kelsey's disappearance. Kelsey lived in the 100 block of North Jettis Street in 1994. Her case remains unsolved.
Number 6.
Samantha was last seen in Suffern, New York on February 3, 2001. She was abducted by her non-custodial mother, Ann Kibalo, during a court-ordered overnight visitation. Ann filed for divorce from Samantha's father, Michael Kibalo, 3 weeks after Samantha's birth. Michael stated every time he saw Samantha, afterward Ann would accuse him of abusing the child. Authorities investigated her allegations and determined they were all without foundation. A psychiatrist testified he thought Ann suffered from Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a rare disorder which could cause Ann to abuse Samantha and/or subject her to unnecessary medical treatment for non-existent illnesses. Ann took Samantha to 7 different doctors 33 times in the 11 months after her birth, and none of the doctors could find anything wrong with her. The psychiatrist thought Michael should have custody and Ann's visitations with Samantha should be supervised. An FBI warrant for kidnapping was issued for Ann on January 15, 2002. She also has warrants for her arrest on charges of unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, custodial interference, and unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. Her last known address was in New Hyde Park, New York. Photos and an age-progressed image of Ann are posted with this case summary. Her date of birth is March 25, 1963, making her 37 years old at the time of Samantha's abduction. She's described as Caucasian, 5'0" and 120 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. Ann wears eyeglasses while driving and may wear contact lenses tinted brown. She may use the last names Yermak, Saul, and/or Kaplan. Ann may have cut her hair short and dyed it blonde. She has an accounting degree from Brooklyn College and has previously worked in that field. She has a dental condition and may seek medical treatment for it. Ann and Samantha were originally traveling in a black four-door 1996 Suzuki Sidekick Sport with a gold-colored bumper and New York license plates. It was recovered in a parking garage in the New York City borough of Brooklyn 2 months after the Kibalos disappeared. Ann and Samantha may frequent doctors' offices and other medical facilities and may be with an adult female relative. They may be accompanied by a 12-pound red miniature Tibetan Spaniel or Tibetan Terrier dog named Vodka. A photo of Vodka is posted with this case summary. Ann and Samantha may be in the New York City area or in Palm Beach County or Boynton Beach, Florida, Illinois, or New Hampshire. In 2006, there were sightings of the pair were reported in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The reports have not been confirmed, but they are believed to be credible. The New Mexico witnesses described the child as quiet and withdrawn and stated her mother did not interact with her much. Michael stated he believes Samantha and Ann are moving frequently to different places around the country and using 2 or 3 different aliases. He believes Ann's mother may be assisting them as she has refinanced her house several times. Michael's theories have not been verified. Samantha is believed to be a Trisk, her mother may have been abusing her prior to her disappearance. Michael now lives in New Jersey and is actively searching for his daughter. He believes Ann may be homeschooling Samantha as he cannot find evidence that she is enrolled in school anywhere. Samantha's case remains unsolved.
Number 7.
Harry was last seen in Endicott, New York sometime in September 2014. He reportedly had contact with family members in October or November of that year. He has never been heard from again. Harry's son, Sean Kostick, was charged with second-degree murder, first-degree manslaughter, intimidating a witness, second-degree forgery and first-degree criminal contempt in his father's disappearance in March 2018. A photo of Sean is posted with this case summary. Investigators believe he caused Harry's death at his home Lincoln Avenue in Endicott sometime between September 1 and October 3, 2014. He allegedly wrote a total of $2,983 in fraudulent checks on Harry's account after his death and threatened to harm to witnesses in the case. In January 2020, a few months before his murder trial was scheduled to begin, Sean pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter in his father's death in exchange for a sentence of 10 years in prison. He was already serving time for an unrelated attempted burglary conviction at the time. He admitted having killed Harry during a fight and that he intended to cause serious physical injury to his father. Harry's body has not been found and Sean hasn't said where it is, but foul play is suspected in his case due to the circumstances involved.